Hello, hello. Super excited to have you all here for the Chosen for More speaker series. I am just absolutely delighted to have a beautiful, wonderful person who has been a blessing to my life joining us this evening to talk about the stock market. So for those who don't know me, my name is Dr. Laqoure Meadows, and I serve as the CEO and co-founder of Invest to Give. Now, I always say that I named my business that for a reason, because my desire is to both invest so that I can give back to the causes and the people that I care most about. Most specifically, my aim is to build and to leave a legacy that's the answer to someone's prayers. And so I do that myself, and I also work really closely with students to help them to be able to do the same. So again, I'm delighted that you all are here. So tonight's conversation will be, again, between myself and one of my sorority sisters of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So we will be talking about our experiences in the stock market. So how tonight's session will go is we're just going to have a conversation between ourselves. We have questions we're going to ask one another. And then once we get finished with that general conversation, then what we are going to do from there is we're going to stop the recording so that you can then ask any questions that you like, okay? So I see a whole lot of my students here. So welcome to those who have been a part of the Invest to Give community, and a special welcome to those who are new to the community as well. So thank you so much for coming. I am absolutely delighted that you're here. So one quick thing I want to say is a quick disclaimer. So my attorney, he be on me, okay? A quick disclaimer to let you know that anything that we talk about tonight is for educational purposes only, okay? None of the things we say are endorsements or recommendations. We're not saying go buy X, Y, and Z tomorrow by any means, right? We're just having a conversation, okay? So glad to have you, Soror. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, me too. So if you don't mind, just introduce yourself. Let us all know, who is Shawanda DeRamus?
Perfect. So my background prior to becoming a trader, I worked in healthcare. I work in healthcare economics. Actually, my most recent job, I worked for Johnson & Johnson for several years as the director of healthcare economics. And what that means is I help companies that come up with new products understand how the economics of that particular procedure work and how they can make profits for them and how they can make it more affordable. So that's what I do. In addition to that, I do a lot of consulting and some other things in business, and I've always done trading on the side. And so as the pandemic sort of was introduced, I had been helping some friends learn how to trade, and we were all at home, right? So you had a captive audience. And I started doing a little, like, more people were calling me just because I guess they were bored. They had extra money in their pockets. I guess they had stimulus checks. And so I started helping more friends with their investments. And so one of my friends said, you can't keep doing this for free. You've got to start charging us, because it's not just a little bit anymore. It's very, very frequently. So as a challenge, I put together an introductory class, and I let some friends take it for free, because obviously you don't want to charge them when you're using them as your guinea pigs, right? And so they really enjoyed it. And I also, figured out some things I wanted to improve on and that kind of thing. And I had taken some classes myself. And so I have been investing for quite some time. I've been investing for over 20 years. I was off of work for a period of time because, as you know, I'm one of those people who decided I wanted a sabbatical in the midst of all the craziness. And so I decided I wasn't going back to work. And I had savings, so I never want to tell people that I supported myself solely on stocks, but I did substantially support myself. And so for the first time, I wasn't trading long term, which is how I've made the majority of my money. I always tell people that. But if I wanted to sit down at my computer and figure out how to make $1,000 to cover the mortgage, I was learning the skill to do that. And so my friends were kind of impressed with that. They're like, well, let me get this straight. How much did you make today? And I don't usually tell numbers, and I always tell people ask for percentages, because you never know how much a person actually paid for. I mean, they tell you they made $1,000, but how much did you invest? Like, you need to know a percentage, really. But I was becoming more and more proficient at day trading and other things, in addition to teaching my friends how to swing trade and long-term trade. So that's my background. We'll talk a little bit more about how I sort of got started and how funny that is. But my goal for my company, which is called Strategic 513, is to ensure that more people that look like us, both women and minorities, are actively trading and also are just long-term trading, because there's too much money on the table. And it's really not that hard to figure it out. You have to figure out how much time you have and how much you want to invest, but it really is not that difficult. And when I think about my parents both, if we had a problem, the solution was they'd go get another job, right? So me and my sister needed to go to private school. My mom and my dad would have a meeting and they say, well, we're going to go get 2 jobs. And that's how they made additional money. And praise to them for doing what they needed to do in that time frame. But in a digital age, I can sit at my computer and make plenty of money and not have to go to a side hustle. And then I can still look like Angela Bassett when I get her age and not be worn out. And that's my goal. I don't have an issue with working. I just want to work smarter and not harder is my stock market. And so that journey has just been very eye-opening. And Laqoure is the same way. Once you figure it out, you want all your friends to know, like, I'm not a stingy person. I want all of us to have money in our pockets. And so my business allows me to be able to train my friends and them to be able to come along on their journey.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how did you take those initial first steps of learning? Because I know for me, I just dove in. I was like, yo, I lived across the street from General Electric, so I'm about some General Electric stock, not having no idea what the heck I was doing, right? Yes. So how did you first get started?
So what's interesting is when I first started investing, it was because I had a very annoying boss who he was second generation, like his dad was a multimillionaire, had been a patent attorney for Procter & Gamble. And I would actually cover for him at work so he could go flip properties. Like that was what we did. And so as a result, he would have me, his father worked for Procter & Gamble and I live here in Cincinnati. And so he'd say, anytime we got a bonus or extra money, he'd say, hey, I need you to drive me by the Procter & Gamble window so I can buy some stock. And I was like his getaway driver for his stock purchases. And over time, it sort of like cultivated an interest. And so in my naive mind at the time, because I was only in my 20s, I thought, well, I can't afford Procter & Gamble because he makes more money than me. So I'll buy something else that's cheaper. And at the time, Chiquita Bank was here in Cincinnati and was going through some changes. And they were contemplating bankruptcy. But in the time frame of them doing that, the stock kept like going crazy up and down. And I would just do a chart. What I didn't know was a chart at the time, but I was charting support and resistance. I didn't know that's what it was at the time. And so when it would dip drastically, I would put my money on it and then I'd wait a week or two and then I'd sell it and it would go up and I started making money. And so that's for my first stock that I purchased myself. Now I had company stock, I'd max out on my 401k. They also let us do some trading within our account. So I was able to do that and did that successful. But I did what I called shoe money. Because in my mind, every quarter I'd buy like 10 pairs of shoes. So I said, well, if I don't buy 10 pairs of shoes next quarter and I take that money and put it in the stock market, if I lose it, I only lost the shoe money, right? So who cares, right? So that's how I started. And more, I kept getting more and more successful with investing my shoe money. And then, the information wasn't as easily readily available as it is today, but I just started doing more research. And when I finally realized my company was paying me to do research every day, well, that's a skill set. And when you're doing stocks, particularly if you're not trying to trade them quickly, the person who does really good research wins the game because you understand the business, you understand the fundamentals, you understand what makes that company make extra money. Are they growing astronomically or just a little bit, that kind of thing. And so that knowledge and that skill set had allowed me to make money. So little by little, I started investing more money. And then I would start getting bonuses. Well, I didn't need the money. I had a boss who outright told me, you're single and I know how much money you make. So when we give you a bonus check, you don't even need to spend it. So I started investing it. And I would buy long-term investments that I didn't touch. And over time, those amassed to a pretty great amount of money. And I started realizing, hey,
so I am truly blessed to have a community of students here actually just joining us tonight for this respective podcast. And a lot of them are taking their first steps on the stock market. So what advice would you give to them as they engage in this whole world of the stock market?
Well, I'll tell you the first thing, which every teacher tells you, and you're not going to do it, but I'll tell you because I'm supposed to tell you, is that use simulation. There's too much simulation software that will allow you to really be able to test some of your theories. It doesn't matter really what type of or what your style of trading is. you still need to test it. And I can honestly say, particularly over the last 5 years, being a more active trader, had I tested the concepts in a simulation, I probably would have a lot more money. But we all tend to do it, like, right? We just say, oh, I can't wait. I want to go ahead and try it anyway. So if you don't want to do that, or if you don't tend to do that as much, then I would say definitely take baby steps. So use shoe money, use your money that you're not going to be overly concerned about at first, and go ahead and get out there. Because what you'll find is you'll have some initial success, and then you can put bigger money at it. But don't do the opposite. And usually in my classes, it's the males. Unfortunately, you really can tell sort of how people invest a lot of times because of their gender. The males in my class come in, they're like gung-ho, I have hustled up an extra 15 grand. I'm gonna put all of it in the market tomorrow. You know, we'll see what happens. If I lose it, I'll go back and get more. That's my male students. Perfectly fine if that's what you choose to do. But please don't put it all in there. Let's maybe say we're going to put a third out there and see how that goes. And then I also encourage everyone, take a journal of when you're trading. So if you trade twice a week or whatever, write down what you did, because you'll learn in doing that how to either do it better or how to totally reverse course. Or you may decide, like one of the things I had an aha about a year and a half ago is I need to learn better stop loss strategies. I would day trade and one day make $2,500 and I'm feeling it. And the next day I'd make $1,800. And so in my mind, I should already have in my mind, I'm only going to risk up to X. But the other part of me is like, no, but I just made almost $4 grand and I'm going to go for a gusto, just like the males in my class. And then that ends up being the problem. So pay attention to your patterns and then be very honest with yourself when you go back to look, okay? So write your trades down. What time of day did it happen? With day trading, what I started realizing is I was spending so much time doing research in the morning that by the time I was trading, most of the gusto had already left the stock. So I'm losing my money. I was losing my money at that time around 1 o'clock. Well, I shouldn't even have been day trading anymore. If you're a day trader and you're trading at 1 o'clock, there needs to be a specific reason. I should have already wrapped up everything and been doing something else. So keep notes on how you're doing things and what went well and what didn't. And sometimes your answer is, I don't know. Instead of ask somebody a particular issue. For example, recently, I don't do options as frequently as Laqoure does. I do that more frequently. And so I had a question. I kept doing something wrong. I did it like 3 times on my own. It didn't play out too well. And so I wanted to know, hey, how do I fix this? I paid her for some of her time and said, hey, can you talk this over with me for a second to see what I'm doing? She answered my question, took me 1 hour. I moved on. I paid her for her time. And now I'm moving on, and I looked at some videos to her sort of augment what she said. And now I know I can move on. My friends do this. Let's break that down. So that's one of the first things that I would say is pay attention to what you're doing, write down what you're doing, and write down deficits, and then go find the answers. So that helps.
Great. That's great. So you talked about noon, right? And you should be done with what you're going to do before then. So I'm so happy that you said that, because I think that oftentimes it's important, especially when you're brand new to the market, it's important to understand the cadence of it, right? It's also important to understand the cadence of the respective securities that you're trading. So how did you I guess my question, the better way to ask this is, how long does it take for you to understand the cadence of a thing? Right?
Well, I think part of it is your education piece. So if you're taking a class, that should be one of the questions you ask in the class. But even in just, I think I share with you some of the gurus that I follow, that I listen to, that I find more credible. If you're watching a YouTube video and the person in the first 30 seconds tells you they made $500,000 in the last 3 months, or they made $1 million, they're lying, because that's rare. So you switch over. I try to pick people who I follow to be much more grounded individuals who are honest. Don't get me wrong, there are days where you get up feeling yourself, you're popping your collars because you made $5 grand that day, and you don't feel like you float above the earth. The mere mortals just walk, right? So you feel, right? But that's not every day. And I try to be very honest, particularly when I'm teaching my class. Yes, I share the grades. AMC, where I accidentally, and I literally mean accidentally, because I bought more shares than I was intending to. And the next morning, an alarm goes off on my phone, and I start calculating in my mind, and I'm like, you made $8 grand. Like, you just bought that at 3 o'clock. It is 7 in the morning. I'm waiting for the market to open so I can sell this, right? But you also have to understand there are going to be things that go south as well. And so when particularly when you're day trading, you need to understand that most of the activity happens in certain cadence. You don't want to be trading at 9:30 when the market opens, because most of us don't have enough money to move that market, that bell either. I try to buy on the dip. That's what I do. And so I wait. Now, occasionally I get too grown and above myself because I feel like the data looks so good that there's no way possible that this is going to go down. And this is going to be 150% stock that day. And I do something that makes no sense. And then I make sure I write that down, because usually when I'm going back over my stock trades, I'm like, that's not your game plan. You need to have a game plan. It's also based on your skill set as well. If you know that you've not been trading that long, and I tell people in my class, then day trading is not something you should be doing at the beginning with a lot of money. If you want to sample it, because I think sometimes the best way to feel something is to feel it with real money. If it's your shoe money and you decide you want to go out there and do it, then set aside $300. Maybe Sean's shoe money is $1,000. So he's like, this $1,000, I'm gonna go for broke, but don't make it a gamble. Gambling is I just did it and I didn't learn from it. Mm-hmm. If you take that $1,000 and you go for broke and you're writing down every day, okay, I tried to buy it at 9:30. And now what I'm realizing is it shot up. So pre-market, it went up 40%. And then it actually retreated to 10%. And I bought it when it was inflated. So then I had to hold on to it. So usually if you're trading at 1, you're praying that it gets back, which is usually not a good game. Because if it didn't do anything all morning, it's probably not going to do anything in the afternoon unless the announcement came in the afternoon. If there were earnings in the afternoon, earnings are very difficult to trade. People always think, oh, well, they announced that their sales were over 50%, but it was already built into the price. The price had already been going up over time. So then you purchase it, and you purchase it at an inflated price. And then the other thing that we do, particularly in day trading or in any stock, we don't want to admit we're wrong. So we wrote down that we were going to have a trail stop. That if it goes down 10%, I'm going to sell it. And I'm just going to take the 10% loss, but we won't push the button. So those things you have to automate, because particularly if you're in the moment, you probably won't push, it'll go back up. And then you're looking and it's gone down 60%. Another error that I've made at the beginning, when I do really silly stuff, I don't do that as often anymore, but I will buy something and I won't admit the loss. And then I keep holding it, praying it's gonna go up. And then one day I actually forgot to close the trade. I was doing something else. I wasn't fully focused. I didn't close the trade. The next day I had lost a boatload of money because I should have just admitted the loss and moved on, but I was holding on, waiting for it to change, forgot what I was doing. And when you're doing a very volatile stock and you need to make sure that you have a different game plan for volatile trades versus if I buy Apple today and I forget to do something to it, it's not going to matter. That's why you buy Apple. But if you buy one of these more volatile stocks, you have to be watching that, and you have to close that out, or you have to set parameters to tell the computer, hey, this dips more than 10, sell mine, and I'll just take the loss. You're not going to win on this is a numbers game. So if I make 10 trades and 3 of them are a bust and I have stop loss on those 3 and 7 I let run, I'm going to win every time. But if I can't admit I'm wrong and I can't say I'm going to sell this at a loss, and I don't understand that it is a numbers game and I'm not going to win every trade and no one wins every trade, then I don't win. And that's the scary part.
That's good stuff. That is good stuff. So one of the things that I share when I'm just speaking and talking about trading is that I truly believe it's 20% skill and 80% mindset. And you just articulated that beautifully as well.
Okay, cool. So we always talk about this together, but I think it's really good for other people to understand sort of people always ask, well, why do you teach other people to trade? Why don't you just, spend more time honing your skills and not spend time teaching other people? Mm-hmm. And so I would just be interested in you sharing your answer to that.
Sure. So I think my answer to that is really multi-layered. So I'll start with, first and foremost, I love teaching. Okay. Ever since I was like a little girl, I was like teaching my teddy bears, like literally. I was passing my papers in my bedroom, teaching them and so forth. So I love teaching. But also I think another reason why this is so important to me is because when you think about our history, and actually I just started a series on this today when I'm talking about the history of enslaved Africans, unfortunately. When we think about the history of the stock market, One of the things that I think is rarely talked about or understood are the first assets that were bought and sold on Wall Street, which is now New York's financial district, were enslaved Africans. The very first asset bought and sold were men, women, and children. Not only were they bought and sold, they were charged with clearing the way for Broadway to be established, but they also built the first wall the Wall Street is named after. So my thing is, if the people who came before me, because I'm brown, okay, people who came before me built it. So I, however, strongly believe that there have been institutions, establishments, strategies built to keep us out of this, right? And one way that that has happened is because it's like a foreign language, right? All these fancy terms, all this extra stuff, right? This serves as those barriers that sometimes causes people to take a step back and not really want to engage. So going to your question, one of the reasons why I am so passionate about teaching this is because I feel like this is my opportunity to make something that has kept people of color in particular away from building wealth for so long. I want to make this thing a
but I share your feelings on that. I feel like this is not something that's taught, and to be fair, it's not taught to anyone in school, but it's definitely not taught to our people. And I think we're always taught, and I think one of the narratives in the pandemic that has bothered me is this whole, well, no one's working because we gave out a stimulus check. Well, if a $3,000 check helps solve everyone's problem, let's give them out every year. You and I both know that's not true. That did not solve everything. But I think what we're really hearing is, how dare they have the audacity to decide to do a side hustle at home versus coming to my sucky job? How dare they have the audacity to walk off their job and start their own business? How dare they have the audacity to learn how to use the markets to make income? And I say we should be just as audacious as we should be. To your point, this is our thing, right?
Yep, exactly.
I want to go to an engagement, and we talk about how much money we're making doing stock trading. And because it's accessible to everyone, there's no reason for us to not invest at this point. And we're all going to do things differently. So I'm not telling you to day trade. Actually, I tell people to make sure that they don't do day trading as the first step, but you can do it. It's not hard. There are gentlemen who are doing it who have a lot less education than you and do it every day. And the reality is they only
say it again for the people in the back.
No, you just need to pay attention.
Exactly.
Out some things and study some things. But I want to go to a party, and that's what we're doing. I want that to be a part of our regular lexicon, because that will lead us to generational wealth. That is what we should be doing. And it's not that hard. Like, you don't need to brag, but that should be a part of our conversation. Is what are you doing? And it's too accessible. And I love that we have more YouTube shows that are about investing, and we have more people that are doing it. So recently I was at a party, and that's exactly what we were doing. We were sitting there like, oh, what you bought? What? Well, no, I don't have any of that. And literally people were putting stock orders in while we're in the conversation. That to me is fantastic. It shouldn't be just Laqoure is the person who's investing and she's doing it in a corner. She's not telling everyone else. Why? I've realized this is pretty cool. And based on how much time you want to put into it, the more you can do. And I love, like, when young people take my class, it's hilarious because they have no inhibitions, because this is natural to them. Like, when I first started investing, like, you had to actually go to Procter & Gamble to purchase something, or you had to call a broker and ask questions and that kind of thing. This is the only space where they will lend you money sight unseen. You apply for an account, put money in, and they're like, oh, you know what, Shawanda? Since you let us hold your 10 grand, we're gonna let you have 30. Where does that happen?
Yeah.
They want to do it for a house. They won't do it for anything else. But for stock investing, unbeknownst to us, they've been doing this for years.
Absolutely.
Put down 100 grand and they got 300 grand to invest with. Well, if you know what you're doing and you don't treat it like gambling and you make some very wise decisions, really the odds are that you're going to make money doing that. What else do they allow you to do that on? I don't know about you, but the bank usually makes me come if I want some money. They don't want to ask questions.
The whole application.
The mortgage paperwork you had, so they pretty much probably have a tracker on my kidney based on the paper that I signed. I don't know what, page 44, I didn't read. Did you read it? You didn't read it. This is the only thing that they let you do that on. Another piece of it is with fractional shares and all the other ways that you can buy stock, that's like putting stock on layaway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I tell this story with pride. So people are like, you shouldn't tell that story. That speaks to your childhood. I'm not embarrassed. When I was a kid, I used to love layaway. I used to, every year I would go at the beginning of summer when I got my little summer job, and I'd pick out all my school clothes and I'd have it all coordinated down to the underwear. I'm on a Monday, my Tuesday, my Wednesday. And all summer long, I would pay on that layaway. And I was so proud when the school year started, because everyone else is scrambling. I'm like, I pick my clothes out in August. I don't know what y'all doing. And I pay off my little layaway, and I'd be very proud of myself. And stock now is sort of the same way. You could buy a little bit. I can't afford a whole share of Tesla. I'm going to buy a fourth of a share. Then when I get a little bit more, I'm going to buy a half a share. And before you know it, that's going to amass to a decent holding of Tesla stock. Mm-hmm. And these younger kids get that. So one of my youngest students, he calls me, he's always texting me, Miss Shawanda, what is that grid that you showed me? I'm trying to get my uncle to invest and I need to explain this. So he has gone out and been like a prophet. He probably has about 10 people investing because he took my class, and he only took it because his mom thought he was possibly doing something illegal. She was like, he keeps buying stuff and I don't know what he's doing and I don't know what to look at. She said, so I need you to look at it and make sure this stuff is on the up and up. This is not drug money, although he did buy some Pfizer, but this is good drug money, right? This is what we should be encouraging. So that's why I love what I do. That's why I love investing. That's why I love when someone takes the class. And it's not just young ones. I have one lady in my class, she's very quiet. No one would know it, but she's been killing the game since she took my class, killing it. So she called me, she said, I want to let you know, my husband has always managed our 401k our whole marriage. She said, and just because I took your class and my results for the last 6 months, he said, babe, I give up. You take it. You obviously know what you're doing. I don't know what you learned in that class. Right? So that's awesome. I love those kind of things. So that's why I do this. I think it's fun. I don't want to see us haggard and working 10 jobs. I want to see us doing well. And there's nothing wrong with working. I never want to say that. But why would we kill ourselves when that's not the—
But before we do that, Shawanda, if you don't mind telling us, how can people find you?
Yes, definitely. So I'm getting a more official email actually in January, so we'll tell you that. But my business is called Strategic 513, and you can reach me at Strategic. It's STRAGEKI. Oh, I spelled it wrong. My bad. Strategic, STRATEGIK 513 at Gmail. Strategic with a K. It's just the word strategic with a K instead of a C. That was a branding issue. I couldn't afford to pay for the C, so I had to pay for the K. So it's knowledge to change the game. That's what the K is, knowledge to change the game. And strategic513 at gmail.com. You can email me and would love to talk to anyone, definitely. But that's my email address.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So I just have to publicly also just say thank you for being so supportive of me. I started this new venture with Stocks and Sorors. I told you what I wanted to do, told you I was going to Dallas, and you was like, I'm there.
So that was awesome. But I went, my friend's like, why are you going? I'm like, because it's my friend and she's got a great goal and I want to go see it at her education.
Absolutely. I do want to share one quick resource with people. I just shared this with my students like a half an hour ago. But for those who are interested in investing and trading in the stock market, the Stock Traders Almanac is a really good resource. Hopefully you guys can see this. So this may be something to check out for 2022. It gives you a lot of information about the history of stocks and so forth. So just encourage you to check it out. Okay, really good resource. All right, perfect. Well, thank you again so much, Soror, for being here with me today. I appreciate it immensely. So thank you again for taking the time.
This was fun. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Perfect.
Hopefully I can help someone else on their journey.